Goodwill has got to be one of the worst places you can work at. And I'm not just saying that just to say it, but I've experienced it like firsthand. This was a while back. Like I started working there during the summer, and by the end of that summer, I just didn't care anymore. I started ghosting shifts, and I had watched like around 8 people quit around me. And when I had first got the job, I thought it'd be cool. I thought it was gonna be chill. Like, a thrift store, it's easy. It seems like it's easy work and you get a discount with it included. So I thought, yeah, why not? But no, bro, this was like the worst mistake I've made. So like I said, this is a while back. I wrapped up my spring semester in college and I wanted to make some money over the summer. I was applying to a bunch of different places, just throwing applications out, seeing who would reach out to me first. And then I came across Goodwill listing for retail associate position, and I thought it sounded fine. I thought it sounded pretty simple, pretty easy, so I applied for it. And then once I applied, I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, but literally 2 hours later, they called me back. Like 2 hours. And I was like, damn, bro, already. So I want you guys to remember this because this is really important. Whenever you apply somewhere and they get back to you almost immediately, that's a huge red flag. And what that usually means is that they're desperate and they really need to fill that position badly. And 9 times out of 10, that means that people are quitting or they're getting fired faster than they can replace them. And that should tell you something about that place and how it operates. But at the time, I didn't really care about that. I mean, it's a thrift store and they reached back, so I was like, fuck it, bro, why not? So the day comes, I go in for the interview, and it was genuinely the easiest interview I've ever done in my life. They barely asked me about anything. It was mostly like the typical day and what it looks like, what the expectations were, and basic stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. Like I said, it was super quick. And I was in and out of there. It was pretty easy. I feel like I left a good impression on them, so I just waited on the call back. And a week goes by, they call me back, told me I got the job. I should have said no at the time, but I didn't know what I was headed towards. So at first, like the first couple of weeks, it was alright. It was decent enough at first. But then everything just starts like revealing itself to me and like how bad that place can be. Alright, so I want to start with something that sounds small, but it sets the tone for everything else, and that's going to be the break room. But calling this a break room is disrespectful to like every other break room out there. And this was like its own room, but there wasn't a door. There was walls around, and it was a corner, literally in the back of the store, like right next to the bathrooms. But it was so poorly made. Like they dead ass just threw a table in, a fridge, a sink, and just call it a day. The whole thing could maybe fit around 3 people at once if everyone was comfortable with each other. And I'm talking, it's probably like the size of 2 bathroom stalls pushed together, and that's dead ass the whole break room right there. And it wasn't even in a spot where you felt like you could actually take a break, because you're crammed into this tiny corner right next to the bathrooms, and there's not a lot of privacy. There's not even a door to close it. You're just sitting there in the open. And it was also next to the back rooms, so like you can hear and see a bunch of what was going on back there. And at times you just felt being dirty in there. Like I didn't like being in there, especially crammed with a bunch of other people. It felt gross. But that was like the least of my problems. So at some point they scheduled me in the back room to get experience sorting through the donations before they went out to the floor. And I want you guys to really picture this before I describe it, because words don't do this place justice, because it's fucking disgusting back there. The back room was the filthiest, most disgusting work environment I've ever been in. Like you walk back there and you just immediately feel dirty. The air is different. There's a bunch of funky smells and they're all different from each other back there. And there's dust everywhere. And you're surrounded by these massive metal crates filled with whatever people decided to donate that day. And the thing about the donations is people don't go through their stuff before they bring it in. They just grab whatever, throw it in a bunch of bags or boxes and just drop it off. So you genuinely never know what you're about to pull out of one of these crates. There's clothes that smell like they've been sitting in a garage for 10 years. Random household items that look like they've never been cleaned, and stuff that you look at and think, why would anyone donate this? Just throw it away. Like the most trash items ever. And the smells, bro. If something smells bad, you just toss it in the trash. But you're still having to touch it and pick it up and make the call every single time, which is so gross, bro. It's so nasty to think about. And it's not even like a light job either. You're bending over these big crates, constantly digging through everything back and forth over and over again. And on top of that, the physical part, you have a quota. So you have to put out a certain number of items on the floor every single hour. And they were on your ass about it if you didn't reach that quota. So like the moment you started slipping on that number, someone was coming over to check on you. And I wasn't even sorting through clothes back there. Clothes were a lot easier to do, but it's really repetitive. Whenever I was back there, I was doing home goods, toys, electronics. So I'm crouching down and bending over constantly, dealing with random stuff that people just threw out in a bag. Every time I worked back there, my allergies would flare up from all the dust and filth that was just floating around in the air. I'd walk out of there sneezing with watery eyes every single time. It was really disgusting, and I'm glad that I only had to be back there a couple times. And now I want to get to the sales floor, which was less physically brutal, but it was still a mess. I liked it more than the back because it was more chill at times, but not really. And if you've ever actually been inside a Goodwill, you already know what the vibe is. Like, clothes all over the floor, stuff out of place, and things are clearly in the wrong section. It was just constant disorganization, and a huge part of our job was trying to keep up with that. So picking the clothes up off the floor, putting them back on hangers, putting misplaced items back where they belong, all day, every day. And here's when it gets really frustrating, is that the store purposely kept us understaffed. Like, it was intentional, everyone knew. We'd have maybe 1 to 3 people on the floor at any given time, sometimes with the manager around, sometimes not. So we're doing the work of what should be 6 people with like 2 or 3 of us. And at the register, it was only 1 cashier at a time the vast majority of the day. So when it got busy in there, and it did get busy, it was just a lot, and there was nowhere to hide from it or like just fucking slack off. Like you had to really just do whatever you got to do. And the whole place just felt like it was being run on bare minimum at all times, like minimum staff, minimum resources, minimum effort from top down, and it only got worse as the summer went on. And so this one day I'm out on the floor doing my thing, and this lady walks up to me and she goes, "Excuse me, I think someone peed in this mug." And I just stop and look at her. I go, "Someone peed in there?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I'm just standing there for a second processing that, and then I tell her to leave it there. I'll go find the manager to handle it because there's no way I'm touching that shit. So the manager had to put on gloves, grab the mug, put it in its own separate box, and throw the whole thing away. And I'm pretty sure it was a homeless person because there were a lot of homeless people coming in and out of that store every single day. Which, by the way, also didn't help with the overall smell situation inside the store. So yeah, I thought it was fucking gross. I just moved on. Except I couldn't move on because a week later, some dude comes up to me on the floor and tells me, "There's piss in this mug." And I deadass cannot make this up. The exact same thing happened twice. And at that point, I'm just thinking, bro, no way, someone's actually fucking with us. Like, who comes back to the same store to pee in a mug a second time? Like, who the fuck would do that, bro? That's crazy. And the managers had to deal with it again, and I felt bad because it was one of the more chill managers who was one of the good ones there, and she was only making like $1 more than us an hour for like dealing with that shit. Is just insane, man. So as the summer really kicked in and the temperature started climbing outside, the AC inside the store decided to just give up on us. And I need you to think about what that means in a building that's packed with old donated clothes, old furniture, and constant flow of people coming in and out all day. And a lot of people fucking smelled in there. It was disgusting, man. And when that AC goes out, it is immediately the hottest, mustiest, most suffocating place you can imagine. Like within 10 minutes of walking in, you're already sweating and it smells in there. It's just awful. And how did management respond to this? They did jack shit. They did nothing. They let it stay broken for a minute because they were trying to cut costs. So we were all out there complaining, telling them this is genuinely not okay to work in, and they're basically just dragging their feet on with it. So we eventually made enough noise about how it needs to be fixed, and then they fixed it. But then, and this is the part where that really got me, it broke again. And from what I know, they never really actually got it resolved the whole time I was working there. So constantly breaking and barely getting patched up. Meanwhile, we're out there just sweating throughout the fucking time we're there. Like, it sounds small, and this video is low-key a rant, but like, when you're already dealing with everything else going on in that store, having no AC in the middle of the summer while you're physically working all day is just one more thing wearing you down. And things were already starting to get worse on a bigger scale. So a few weeks go by, and then people started quitting out of nowhere. And not just like 1 or 2, I mean a steady stream of people walking out. By the time I left, 8 people had quit within the span of that one summer. At a store that was already understaffed, you can imagine what that did to that day-to-day process. But there was one day that really stood out to me, and at that moment I knew like I was done, bro. I was fucking out of there. 4 people called off that day, including one of the managers. So let's just call her Sally, who just didn't show up because even she knew how bad things had gotten. So we had around 5 people total trying to run that store the entire day. So there was like 2 in the back, me and one other person on the floor, and the manager trying to hold everything together. It was pure chaos, bro. It was fucking terrible. And that was when I was with the chill manager, so I straight up told her, "Oh, I'm gonna be doing things at my own pace because they completely fucked us over right now." And she was like, "Yeah, that's understandable." She wasn't even mad about how it was because she was in the same boat. Oh, dude, it just gets worse. And then on my break that same day, this lady who doesn't speak English, she just wanders into the back area looking for the bathroom. And at that store, customers aren't supposed to be in the back room at all, but there was nobody around to tell her that. And I see her head toward the employee bathroom, and I just fucking let her go. I turned around and pretended I didn't see anything, because at that point I generally did not have the energy or the care to deal with it. And that was the level of done I was at. So not long after that, I just decided to dip because school was about to start and summer kind of ended. So I went up to Sally and I told her I was putting in my 2 weeks. And I told her the whole situation was unprofessional and I was out. And she was just like, yeah, I get it. No pushback, because what could she even say? And I hated Sally. She would consistently give me the most tedious, annoying, backbreaking work to do and act like it was totally normal. The unprofessionalism wasn't just from the management either. A lot of the people working there would just openly talk about the wildest stuff on the floor. A lot of it would consist of politics, religion, their personal lives, even their sex lives, right in front of the customers. And Sally, the manager, was also one of those people. But that was never me. I just kept to myself, did what I had to do, and I minded my own business. I wasn't there to make friends or get into all of that. I was just there to fucking do what I gotta do and just get paid, get out of there. But the real factor that decided I was out of there was school coming up. I needed to adjust my schedule, and for the last few weeks that I was gonna be there, I went to Nancy, the main manager, and I told her straight up, oh, I'm starting school in 2 weeks. I need to change my availability. I told her I was only available 4 days out of the week, and all day on those days too. And I was already only doing 24 hours a week as a part-time employee. She told me the best she can do was just not schedule me on those 2 school days. I said, that's chill, that works with me. So then I checked the new schedule. She ends up putting me for 36 hours a week during my first week back at school. Like, that's just crazy, bro. As a full-time college student with in-person classes, I couldn't skip any of those classes. I looked at that schedule and I made my decision right there. So like the next couple of shifts that I had scheduled, I just ghosted every single one of those shifts. I didn't show up to a single one of them. Because, bro, how are you not gonna accommodate me and then just lie to my face and just schedule me for so many days of the week? And that was them just not giving a fuck about what I told them. So I was like, I'll give them the same energy back. It's whatever. And what made it worse was that Nancy, the main manager, had always been weird about me calling off. And I was never late. I never no called, no showed. But the 2 times I did call off, one of those times was because I was actually sick, and the other was I had class, and that was like the last couple of weeks I had before summer started, so I had to show up to that class. And she always had an attitude about it. Like, God forbid I can't call off once in a while, you know? So yeah, after all of that, ghosting those last shifts was like the easiest decision I've ever made. And yeah, that's the Goodwill experience for you, at least from my perspective. And honestly, just making this video and going back through all of it makes me appreciate where I'm at now so much more, because that place was generally one of the worst environments I've ever had to be in. And I'm so glad it's behind me. And if you're out there just grinding through a job like that, like a place that doesn't respect your time or overworks you and ignores what you tell them, I hope you find your way out there soon, because you deserve better than that. And if you're thinking about applying to Goodwill, do not. I promise you there's way better places to go instead of Goodwill. I don't care how bad you need the job. Literally find anywhere else to go at. But who knows, there's probably more chill Goodwills out there, and I just got really unlucky with that really shitty store. But yeah, that's all. Later.